Greetings, YouTube. This past week, the Supreme Court of the United States of America found in favor of Phelps in the Snyder versus Phelps case. Now, a bit of background. Fred Phelps is the person in charge of the Westboro Baptist Church. Now, I use the term church very loosely, because in essence, Fred Phelps is a con man. He's a scammer. His entire purpose in life is to offend people, get sued, win those lawsuits because he should, and then reap a whole bunch of money from the suit. He has a quote-unquote church filled of mostly his family members, most of whom have been trained legally to be lawyers. So he's got people on hand at all times to make sure that he has a lawyer at every moment of every day. You know, the kind of legal team that most people can only dream of. Well, Fred Phelps has one of those right there next door in the next room. Now, the reason that Fred Phelps gets sued all the time, and sues people in kind, is that he pickets funerals. Every funeral. And he brings along big, nasty, horrible signs that say things like God hates fags, and that whoever is recently been buried is being punished by God for our wicked, wicked ways here in the United States. Now, the purpose of this is just to generate outrage, and it works admirably. He's good at this. He's a real-life, three-dimensional, flesh and blood troll. This is how he makes a living. He's about as godly as Hitler, and yes, I went there. Now, the other person in this case is a man by the name of Snyder. Snyder is the father of one of the victims of Fred Phelps. Mr. Snyder was burying his son. Fred Phelps picketed that funeral because it's what Fred does. He generates controversy. He gets sued. He sues in kind. And this man was outraged at this. And how dare you protest at my son's funeral? Justifiably. It's a horribly offensive thing to do. And he tried to sue Fred Phelps, and Fred Phelps said that my rights to picket your son's funeral are protected by the First Amendment. And the Supreme Court of the United States of America has stated in an 8-1 decision that the First Amendment is in fact in favor of Fred Phelps. That your right to publicly decry the death of another person is protected speech. And for me at least, this was a no-brainer. There should have never been a doubt for even a heartbeat that every vile, repulsive, nasty, vicious, rotten, immoral, and unethical word that Fred Phelps uttered was protected speech. That's what the First Amendment does, folks. It makes sure that we can say anything we want to say in public. Now, there are going to be people who say, oh, but we don't have true First Amendment rights because there are exceptions. You are correct. There are exceptions. The no calling fire in a crowded theater exception, of course. The no exciting a crowd to immediately riot. That's considered an exception as well. But for example, I'm opposed to hate speech. I don't want people's speech abridged, except in those two rare instances that I just gave. Now, we have hate crimes speech, as in the sense that we have hate crimes because a person is committed a crime and they're doing it for the purposes of terrorizing a group that that individual that they have committed the crime against belongs to. For example, gay bashing, beating someone up who is gay for the expressed purpose of intimidating the gay community, burning a cross on someone's lawn because they're a minority, with the express purpose of making sure that the group that this minority belongs to understands that you better stay in your place. Those are hate crimes. We need that kind of legislation because that's a form of terrorism. Alright? But hate speech, let people say what they want to. I encourage people to do this. Why? Because it lets us identify the people we really need to keep an eye on. Now, very few people express themselves openly and honestly. I do it here every day. Alright? But I'm the exception. Most Americans don't have a YouTube channel. They don't tell the world what they believe. But when it comes to those hateful moments, when that vile, ugly aspect of their personality is revealed, I want to know about it. I want to know who do I need to keep an eye on. So the Fred Phelpses of the world, I encourage them to speak out. I want to know about their vile, hateful nature. I think it's important. But there's another side effect to this case that I didn't think of. This was thought of by Frank Clark. He's known as the Slacktivist. Online, he's a very well-written, very well-spoken blogger. I've linked to articles he's written in the past. He really is quite talented. And he made an interesting observation that many of the members of the sectarian community, the religious community, who have opposed same-sex marriage, gay marriage, have done so because they said that if it was made legal everywhere, then a religious leader speaking out against homosexuality, against a person who wants to marry a member of their own sex and gender, one might fall under the category of hate speech, and they could get sued or even possibly arrested. Now, I always said that that was bull, that their speech was protected, that they could say as many vile and disreputable things they wanted to say, and that the Supreme Court would back up their right to do so. Well, in this past week, the Supreme Court has agreed with me. So, when we eventually do get same-sex marriage in the United States, and when a religious leader wants to stand up before his or her congregation and say that gay people are horrible individuals and that they're going to go to hell, that's protected speech, folks. And we'll be able to listen to that kind of vile crap forever. And it should be protected speech. And I want to hear it. I want to know who's speaking it. I want to know who believes these things. I don't want them hidden in the dark. I don't want them plotting against my fellow citizens. I want them out there and in public, revealing to the whole world the truly vile, unpleasant, unethical, and immoral things they believe. I think it makes it a whole lot easier when it comes to things like, say, making out your Christmas card list.